Okay, we're back in business. In my classroom here, there was actually a power outage. Only lasted 30 seconds or whatever, but my active panel shut off. Luckily, my laptop didn't shut down because it's got battery power. But I don't know why the video actually kept recording for a little while for some reason and then paused. But so this will be part two as far as like videos. I'm just happy the video saved the first part. But let's pick up where we left off, obviously. All right. So what I was just saying was just to kind of repeat a couple things here. So maybe I'll put it this way. Yes, it is possible to potentially cancel things vertically. Like obviously, if those two numbers could reduce, you could do it. Or if those two numbers could reduce quick, you could do it. But the fact is, potentially, numbers can cancel diagonally, like the 5 and the 3, potentially, not here, but, or like the 6 and the 2 can actually reduce with each other, and then you can multiply across. But if that seems too much for you, hey, I totally understand. Just go ahead and multiply across to get 10 over 18, and then just reduce that. That's obviously an option. Okay, here we go. 2 times 3/4. How do we multiply these? How do you multiply an integer times a fraction? Well, look. Just like with adding and subtracting, let's actually turn the 2 into a fraction, like blatantly into a fraction. So then it's a fraction times a fraction. How do we turn 2 into a fraction? We do that. So now that it's 2 over 1 and it's a fraction, now we can do numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So 2 times 3 is 6, and then 1 times 4 is 4, and then does 6 over 4 reduce? Yes, it does. 3/2. Next. And dividing, final stretch. So point of emphasis, in order to divide by a fraction, what do? Basically, how do you divide by a fraction without using your calculator? How do you divide by a fraction? Do you remember from middle school? You multiply by its reciprocal. All right, so the reciprocal is like a fancy word that, like, I might be catching you off guard with that word. I'm sorry. But in middle school, like your middle school teacher might have said something like, oh man, I'm on the spot here because I never say these kinds of things, but your middle school teacher might have said something like leave, change, flip or something. Is that right? Leave, change, flip, something like that. But you should probably learn the technical lingo here now that you're in fancy high school. Multiply by its reciprocal, which means this, to do 4/3 divided by 1/6. So I think it'd be like leave, and then the change would be changing division to multiplication, and then flip. So the reciprocal, to get more used to like the official lingo, the reciprocal of 1/6 is basically what you have when you flip it, and it's 6 over 1. So multiplying by 6 over 1 is equivalent to dividing by 1/6. So multiply by its reciprocal. Leave, change, flip. And now that it's multiplying by a fraction, we can multiply across. So 4 times 6 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3. And then does this reduce? Does 24 over 3 reduce? Heck, not only does it reduce, man, look, this is, remember, fractions are literally division problems. 24 over 3 is literally 24 divided by 3. So not only does 24 over 3 like reduce, it flat out divides cleanly. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Okay? Now, if, let's say, you didn't really notice that right away and you just like reduced it, I guess you could say that's 8 over 1, but come on, 8 over 1 is 8. Divides clean. 4 divided by 2/5. Again, the very first thing you have to do is make this into multiplication, you know. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal, or, can't believe I didn't say this already, or as I call it, refliprical. Get it? See what I did there? Yeah, okay. So 4 times 5 halves, or leave, change, flip. And just like we would do before, well, you got to make that into 4 over 1 so we can multiply across. Numerator times numerator. Denominator times denominator. And once again, not only does this reduce, this flat out divides cleanly to be 10. 20 over 2 is 10. Or 10 over 1, which would then be 10. Well, slight curveball. 1/4 divided by 2. Whenever there's a fraction involved, I mean, so make that into a fraction. Now we have something to flip here, huh? Leave, change. Wait. I think I just messed it up. 2 over 1, when you flip it, is 1/2. So this problem becomes 1/4 times 1/2. Now we can multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 2 is 8. And does 1 over 8 reduce? Heck no. Oh, of course. So again, once again, just like we did before, mixed numbers, let's change them to non-mixed numbers, basically improper fractions. So do we remember how to change these to improper fractions? Do you? 3 times 8 is 24, plus 2 is 26/3, and then I haven't done anything yet, so that's still division. Keep track of what you're doing. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and then the denominator stays 4. Okay, now we can move on with, so this becomes 26/3 times, so leave, change, flip, or in other words, right, sorry to be a broken record, but dividing by a fraction means multiplying by its reciprocal, or refliprical. And now, can you do this in your head? I mean, I can, but you might need to grab a calculator. 26 times 4 is 104, I believe. Oh my gosh, I feel like I need to grab a calculator myself, maybe. 26 times 4 should be 104. Yell at me when you see me if I'm wrong. But and then 3 times 5 is 15. I don't believe this fraction reduces, and one of the reasons I really know that is because 26 and 3, that doesn't reduce. 4 over 5 doesn't reduce. And you know what? 26 doesn't reduce with 5, and 3 doesn't reduce with 4. So I'm pretty sure 104 over 15 is a legit final answer. Yeah, so to summarize here, gang, when you add or subtract with fractions, you need the denominators to match. If the denominators don't already match, you need to make them match. And when you're multiplying fractions, you don't need the denominators to match. You just multiply across. And if you're dividing by a fraction, you have to multiply by its reciprocal, or in other words, leave, change, flip. All right, so that does it for part 2 because of a power outage.